have to say, I think in the nursing education field, and based on some articles that I brought up, gaming has not really been one of our strong suits in teaching students. We did recently have simulation, of which Bonnie has been a valuable resource. We have a mannequin that is, I don't even know how much he costs, like thousands of dollars, that he's totally automated, and we create scenarios that we plug into him, and we program the scenarios for him to breathe, or as we just did last week, for him to die in front of the students.
Can I marry him?
And there's basically an algorithm that they need to follow in terms of the appropriate steps, and if they don't follow those steps, the machine records all of their errors. And pipe in, Bonnie, if there's any additional things that I'm missing, because Bonnie's actually been running it. But they actually have to perform in a cardiac arrest event and act like that really is the patient, and what are they going to do, what drugs are they going to give, and go through the whole steps. And we brief before, and then we brief and debrief after, and show them where they fell apart. The first time we did this, the students were there for about 5 minutes before they responded at all. The first year we did it, and we said, well, excuse me, the patient's dead, because in 4 minutes without oxygen to your brain, you're basically gone. So they were like, they couldn't believe it. But that's basically bedside scenarios we do, and that's what we've used in nursing. And we typically teach the content through lectures. So I got interested in games. The first time was when we went for accreditation with Steve Minkler. We were in the community room, and we were preparing for NEASC accreditation, and he posted a Jeopardy game of all the review of the criterias, and I sat there and was totally, like, couldn't believe how much I really didn't know about the NEASC accreditation, but that Jeopardy game stuck in my mind. And I used it probably a couple semesters later. I thought I would try it, and as I was developing, I'm thinking, this is really corny. You know, the kids are probably going to laugh at me when I get up there and say we're going to play Jeopardy. And you know, I really did not anticipate a good response, but I felt, if anything, it was a good review of the content. So I did it at the end of class. I had taught for 3 hours, and I knew they were basically brain dead by the time I finished. And it was also, we have all these itises in our body, you know, colitis, diverticulitis, hepatitis, pancreatitis, and I had lectured for 3 hours on every itis in the body. So I said they probably are totally overwhelmed and don't remember a thing I said. So I put up the Jeopardy game, and I have to tell you, I was totally shocked by the response. They absolutely loved it. When I finished, they wanted me to post it on Blackboard so that they could play it at home and review it. And then I did it for a subsequent lecture with different content, and they really, really did give me great feedback that they really liked it. So I guess it wasn't too immature of a game for them to focus on. And then I brought it up, Kevin and, I'm sorry, I forgot your name. Benji. We were at adjunct orientation, and we were talking about teaching tips, and I had brought it up, and I know, Kevin, you had thought it was you know, an interesting concept. But in preparing for this, I did, I did go through the literature a little bit. I pulled up gaming in terms of learning, and what does the literature say. Basically, this study done by Ulrich and Glendon, using games as a teaching strategy, pointed out that games do create a community among students and faculty. It does enhance students' critical thinking abilities, reduces the risk of failure, that it is a non-threatening environment for them, especially if they use it within their own home and at their own leisure. It does promote active student learning, and is an open-ended opportunity for students to clarify their ideas and ask questions. The one thing, though, there was a couple of studies done by different researchers that found there really wasn't a difference in terms of the learning outcomes, whether it was traditional teaching or learning through games. So some studies said there really was no difference in terms of the actual outcomes. So that actually both are appropriate resources. But another study that I looked at, SUSA, said that traditional lecture, there's only a 5% retention rate over a 24-hour period. I don't know if you shake your head, Kevin, I don't know if you've seen this before. And the audiovisual aids, there's 20%, demonstration 30, discussion groups 50, practice activities 75, peer teaching 90. And then this is basically the same as the first slide, but it's a different study. And again, interactive teaching strategies are defined as student-centered, that they take a more active versus passive role, that we facilitate learning rather than us controlling it through the lecture process, and again, non-supportive. And they didn't really highlight any specific strategy. They said, you know, role-playing, the games such as I'm going to present, also video games. So there's a bunch of different strategies that can be used. They didn't really clarify which one. But the thing that came through in a lot of the articles that I read was that, you know, and I think we talked about it either at adjunct meeting or we may have talked at one of our nursing meetings, that our students are more technology focused and that they're used to that immediate feedback, and that they do enjoy the games for learning. And while I was on spring break, thinking I didn't have any idea how to really kind of organize this, I received an email from what we have this called Nurse Tim. He's a doctorate in nursing, and he does a lot with education and has just started kind of his own company where he provides us with educational resources. And he provided an email to, I don't know if you got it, Bonnie, but do you get anything from Nurse Tim? But it came through to my email anyway, and I opened it up. And usually I just kind of delete them. And this one was a fellow nurse at a community college that was talking about using games as a learning strategies. And she provided all these different sites that I thought I would just share with you guys, because I think I wasn't aware that they were available. And maybe, I'm not sure if you guys do in the other disciplines, if you've utilized, has anybody utilized other games in their courses through websites? Because I wasn't really, so this is.
Yeah, and there's a handout here that I copied from an I Teach class that I took last summer for some online resources and some free or low cost game resources as well. And then I have some information about hot potatoes is one and quandary is another. You can go in and make up mazes and word searches and all that kind of stuff.
That's similar to what these are here too. This one is.
Yeah. No.
Yeah, it did. You have to exit out. So yeah, there it is.
No.
Yeah, go down again and you'll find it.
No.
There it is.
No. Where'd it go? It did that to me in my office too. I don't know why.
Or the.
Hold on. I double clicked twice, and then it finally came up the way there it is. So this one is. Okay, where'd it go? Oh, here it is. So this is another. These are a lot of things are templates, and you can download these. So I did provide you that with the handout. All of these sites. So this is the Jeopardy game, multiple choice scavenger hunt. I know you presented on a scavenger hunt, Kevin. Word searches. Who Wants to Be a Millionaire is a popular one out there now. This one was devised. Who Wants to Be a Coach? And oh, there it is. Download a sample game.
This site is free.
Yeah, yeah, you can download all of these. Why it's not working now? Yeah. This person never does that when you want it to. No. There's actually another site that.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. So you've done. Oh, okay.
But, I don't know if Bruce has any ideas, but this one is. It's not the same one. Where did it go? Sorry. Oh, gosh, I did double click. This one is, people have used Second Life. Anybody use Second Life? No?
Yes, I know it's really, yeah.
Okay, so I just gave you that was the website too, that I wasn't sure, but I know they're using it a lot in nursing. I didn't sign up for it for this purposes of this, but we're using Second Life a lot in terms of clinical scenarios and animations. It can actually walk a patient through a visit in the emergency room and provide information like that.
What is, I'm sorry, what is Second Life?
Second Life is more virtual world, so you create these,
Like an
design-
avatar, you have
Yes,
your
it's
own,
like an
everybody
avatar.
picks, you pick your own avatar.
Yes.
And I mean, are you actually using that, Dawn?
No, I haven't used it, I just
There's
went
a
to
lot of work that would go into it, setting it up, but I'll tell you, it's something that students would love, because they create their own little person, they can pick what color their hair is, what they look like and everything, and then they can walk through different scenarios that you set up. I've been really studying it, I'm hoping to start doing it in the fall.
Yeah,
But-
actually, we just had a nursing conference last summer, and Diane Skiba, she's from the University of Colorado, and she's really big in introducing Second Life into the nursing world. And she gave a presentation, an all-day presentation at this our nursing conference, and she's actually coming back in June to go into more depth, because it's pretty extensive, but the feedback from students, especially at the baccalaureate level too as well, is they're really getting a lot out of it.
Yeah, because you have buildings and everything, and they would pick the building, and then they would have a different scenario, and they'd have to make decisions how they would handle things. That's excellent.
And I don't think it's not Second Life just for nursing. I mean,
No,
it could be any kind of an atmosphere or any kind of setting.
But to make
Is it
decisions
free?
on.
I was gonna ask a question. So how would you get the students involved in?
Actually, I can go back to this. I can show you. I started to sign up, but I had to create my own
No,
personal.
Dreamcast, it's
I
for,
wanted
you
to do
signed in. Okay. Okay.
Be an assignment.
Okay.
They would have,
It
yeah,
says sign up now for
you
free.
would set it up and then they would go up and do it on their own. So you'd link it into Blackboard.
Yeah, or something so that they can go out and, yeah, and they could do that.
Right. And then, yeah, so you have to put in that information, and then you've got to choose a look.
Yeah, you gotta choose which.
That's where I
one.
stopped. I was going to sign in, and then I said, I don't think so. That's today. And then, a security system. But I do know that it's really big in the nursing world now, that they're starting to introduce a lot of the Second Life stuff, so.
Which one is this thing? It's the- no,
And
this one.
You have all these links on one of the print
I
outs too?
do, that, yes.
Thank you.
Where'd it go? Oh, there it is. This is just another one, and it has, are you smarter than a fifth grader? Which I don't know, I don't do too well on that game show, so, Password, Wheel of Fortune, the Jeopardy, and Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. So again, you can download those all for free, and I'll show you, actually this is probably as good a time as any, to show you the one that, because I have to log out and log back into PowerPoint, but I can show you the one that I did. So you just, so you have them, I actually picked after I started this, because when I started it, they were all raising their hands, and we had, 95 students in the class, so they were all trying to say, oh, GI for 100 or GI for 300, but you just click it on. There's, I made up the information that I wanted presented, so this was, a set of symptoms that they had to determine, and then if they yell out the right answer, what is GERD, which is the right answer. That's reflux, it's heartburn, basically is what GERD is. In layman's term, it's heartburn. So, so we went through, after I said that 3-hour lecture, and it was amazing that they didn't have the retention, because they were struggling over some of the stuff that I had just presented it. So I think that's why they said when they realized I was going through it, and they were still struggling with what the answers were, they asked for it to be posted on Blackboard so they could use it as a review before the test. So.
How much flexibility do you have in creating that board, the game board? Like,
Yes.
as many over here and as many
Oh,
down?
no, I
or
think it is just.
Just like 5 by 5 or 5 by 6?
Yeah.
or-
Wait, where's the, I forgot where the outline is. I always have to play.
There's a tab that looks like it says outline there. Is that what you want? Down the lower?
This one.
Yeah.
No.
Oh, no, that's the outline.
Let's see. No, I don't know where it is, but no, you just have the. I think there's
That's
six.
already fixed.
There's 6 rows, and then it goes 100 to 500. So.
So you play with it with the whole class?
Yeah, it's 5 rows. Yeah. Or like I said, you could post it just for a review of your class, and they could do it at home, because it does work. Like I said, I posted it on Blackboard, and then they pulled it up at home and used it for a review, so they could play it like this.
Are there any bells or whistles that come with it?
There's the full directions. With the template that I got and the website that I received it from, actually Marie Farrell is the one that sent it to me. and it has the directions, and it has,
But I mean, like, if they get it right, it's like, does it?
No.
Nothing?
Oh,
No,
no.
it's quiet?
yeah.
I was gonna say, that's something they always like.
Yeah, no, this one didn't.
Was there a final Jeopardy on it, or no?
No, this was just the one. Now, I haven't looked at the ones that are in these other websites, so I don't know if those two other websites, they have Jeopardy downloads, so I'm not sure if there's differences. I didn't actually go into them, which I'm sorry, I probably should have.
No, but this is great, because I do mine
Yeah.
every semester, and it's all, I just handwrite it all on the board, you know,
Oh, my
that's,
goodness.
you know,
Yeah.
just the grid,
Oh,
and then I
just
have
the
the
grid.
printouts of the questions and
This
answers.
is very
But it's
good
kinda nice to
idea.
have the questions show up visually too, not just me reading it. And that would probably make it more efficient, just because I wouldn't have to repeat it 7 times. You know, sometimes they're, can you repeat the question, can you repeat the question? So that way it would just be there, and then you could work on it, and then give the answer.
And then you save it and you can use it, like I used it last year, and then I
Yeah,
used it
great.
again this year with, you know, and I have 2 different
Really cool.
ones. I have this one for my GI content, and then I have one for my oncology content, so I use them both in class.
Very
So-
good
Is
idea.
that- I
Very
use
good
it-
idea.
Well, in
It's
my-
I
good
can
for
use it
science.
for my ANP classes,
Yes,
you know.
yeah, yeah.
I give them a review sheet
Mhm.
for the exam. So instead of giving them a review sheet, I can make this game, and then, you know, they can just do it, you know, at their home. You know, it's very good idea.
Yeah.
Yes, I have to learn this though.
In my other job, we actually used a Jeopardy game, but we actually handmade it.
Mhm.
And so, but when we kept scores, we either had people selecting members to be their representative for the team, and then we keep scores. So the smartest people, as it were, would be the representatives, and we would keep scores for the different teams. And it was always fun. They were excited because it got them really involved. Oh, this, I like this, because I don't have to make it myself.
There's also one for Family Feud, and we did that for PTK 2 years ago, and then last year, and the kids came. I mean, that was just for one of our fun things to do for PTK, but they really enjoyed that game. But I was reading in one of the literatures on Family Feud that you could divide the class into 2 teams, and then you know, have a topic. And then you would pick out, prior to that, you would have like the 5 most important things about that topic, and then, you know, the first team would go and they would decide on, you know, what was the most important thing. If they got it right, they could either decide to keep going, or they could pass to the other team to see if they answered all 5 of them and who gets the most points. So
I do this, you know, with my bones. So I divide the class, first time they have the bones, which I taught about them, right? The second time when they come for the review, I told them beforehand that there will be like a competition. I will divide the class into 2, you know, and then make sure you don't let down your friends or your team. They really come prepared with. And then I will say, what is this bone, like the femur, you know, what is this feature? And I put the points there. And you won't believe it, you know, they come so much prepared with it. And they are so excited. And the environment is so good, you know, positive learning.
yeah.
So that's very good, very good.
And then I did go in. I don't know if I can bring it back. Let me see, because I gotta go back out and put my other PowerPoint in here. Let's see. Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? That one. I think it's off of this. This one. Yeah. Whoop. Let's see if it'll open up again. But this one has the music from Who Wants a Millionaire, so it's a little bit more interactive. I don't know why it's not downloading. Let's see if it does here. Bruce. How come I'm not getting this up? But they suggested that, you know, the easiest questions, you know, just like in the game, the 100 level questions. I don't know why this isn't opening. Let's see if it'll open with that. No idea. But then the higher, like the $1 million question would be the more complex information related to the course. I'm sorry. It all opened in my office. I'm not sure why it's
It
not
doesn't
open.
open in the classrooms usually.
Yeah,
You have to
so-
save it someplace and then open it from there. If you wanna
Sorry.
save it to
And I
the
couldn't get in here
documents.
that fast before the test, I mean, before we started. But again, it is set up exactly like the game on TV, and they demonstrated it with that coach thing, that the 100 questions were the easy questions, and then if they flip over the, like, question A, it'll say wrong, and then, you know, question B, it'll say wrong, and so it was a little bit more interactive than the Jeopardy game. This is an interesting software. This you do have to buy, but it has a lot of uses throughout. No, never mind. I'm not going to open on that one. I got it saved down here. Throughout, there's business, there's macroeconomics, and there's nursing, and there's biology. So I just found this actually this weekend, and but I do believe, because it's software, that we have to buy it. But this is the macroeconomics, and as you can see down here, it has, it's for nursing. It's also talking with biology lecture, animations, the immune response, cardiac, and then this one is the macroeconomics. It doesn't give you much of a demo, but again, it looks like it could be.
The solar growth law is a way to illustrate how capital accumulates over time. In this animation, we'll break the model down into its components to see how it works. To do so, we'll be using a simple economy as an example. A family farm that grows only corn. Let's say the farm starts with a silo containing several bags of seed corn. They plant some of their kernels in the spring.
I don't know if you want to see it, but I mean, that's just an example of some more interactives that they could apply. And the same with the nursing ones were really good too. This was another one that I found. It's in one of the articles that I read for the math. Skip the intro, sorry. But they have two different, it's kind of like a virtual thing as well, but it's applying math. So this is, you go in and I can't actually do it because I didn't log in, but there's a scene, and then over here, they, so it gives you what you have to do. Everyone loves the idea of picnicking on the grounds, using both picnic table shapes, arrange 5 picnic tables on the other side of the row of bushes, and then they place them, and it tells you that they have to measure them, and so they're using geometry and algebra. I was talking with Kathy Heron just before she left. It would be really good for pre-algebra and developmental math in terms of reviewing some of the concepts. This one they have to decide, they have to place the size of the pond. So the pond has a diameter of 30 meters. 50% of the pond should be in the shade at 2 p.m. So they bring in a lot of different concepts, but you know, they're creating something as well. So that was one of those. And I did find an English one that had a whole thing about Shakespeare and Edgar Allan Poe. I wasn't sure. It's been a long time since I took English Comp and English Lit, so I wasn't sure exactly what you were doing in those, but there was a whole thing on Shakespeare. They actually had comparing, they had the Richard Burton Shakespeare, and then they had people trying to act it out. And it was really a very interesting study. And then this one, again, has both applicable to nursing and anatomy and physiology, where you actually enter a lab and prepare DNA. And hopefully this will work. It worked in my office. Okay, I'm not sure why that's coming through. We could all go to my office. I can tell you. It's around the corner, because I'm not sure why this isn't coming up now. Let's see. I'm sorry.
That's okay. We have the sites, right?
Yeah, and the offices it plays, because it comes right up. But basically what it does is, you know, walks through preparing with the Petri dish and adding the bacteria and putting it in the centrifuge and going through the whole processes. And the same with the cardiology, it's all going through a cardiac assessment. But again, a lot more hands-on. So that's pretty much all that I had, but I know Nancy, you had your,
Why don't we-
and we have
yeah,
Lori. so-
Lori, want to share? Lori's running some games, and Lori is like the queen of games and
Well, I
activities.
always have them do something, then they keeps them on their toes.
And then we'll hear what other ideas each of you use.
One thing I do, this is not the beach ball I usually use, I usually have smaller ones. What I do a lot of is, I use a lot of it for review. Because I teach marketing, marketing lends itself perfectly to group activities. So anything that I talk about in lecture, the other half of the class, they always work in groups or in teams. And what I try to do is I always try to find a creative way for them to split into groups. I don't let them find their own partners and stuff like that. So I will use, when they come in, I'll give them visors. They won't know why. So I'll give them visors, and then I'll say all the pink visors go into a group. So the pink visors all put their visors on and things like that. And then they always, the first thing they have to do is think of a team name. And it has to be creative. It can't be Team 1. Kevin and I were talking about this. Team 1, the blue team, the pink team. So they have to do that. And it builds a huge bond in the group just because they're all sitting there with their visors. And some of them are always embarrassed, but I keep saying we won't proceed until everyone puts their visors on. And they end up wearing their visors for the whole class. And actually, it makes it much more enjoyable. I do that. I always give them lace to wear, you know, when they come in, they always dread, you know, and then they start, after a while, they catch on. So what they'll do is they'll see what color their friends have. You know, if they have green, they'll try to take the same. And I know what they're doing. I go, you can't pick green. And they do that, and I always split my groups up doing something creative like that. I bring in a lot of, I'm sure Home Depot, Bruce shouldn't be getting this down. Home Depot would appreciate, I bring paint colors, you know, I'll get the paint colors from like Home Depot and stuff, and then they'll pick, so everyone that picks the red gets it. So every time they split, I have a creative way for them to split into teams. So that is just kind of arbitrary what they pick. And I do that, and it livens it up. I have all sizes beach balls. I have square ones, much smaller than this, and a lot of times I use this for concepts or for vocabulary. And I'll just write a vocabulary word or something on each thing, and I'll have them toss it around, and then they'll pick the vocabulary word, and then they have to define it. Or if there's a concept, I'll write what the concept is, and they all throw the ball around. And I have tons of these balls, and they'll just bounce them around, and then they share that. But I do that. I also do popsicle sticks, so that when the groups are meeting and they have to think of a topic, I do popsicle sticks, and I just write it with magic marker. I'm trying to think what else. I do that. I also give them, as for extra credit, I always give out crossword puzzles for vocabulary. Crossword puzzles, word search. Word search isn't as popular, but crossword puzzles is. And so I do things like that. So I always try to find creative ways, because the second half they're always working in groups anyway. The one thing, and actually I was talking about this to Kevin this morning, I do want to talk about groups, is that they can get a bit competitive. So usually the first time we do a group thing, they don't know each other, so there really isn't that competitive edge. And so for the first time, I always give out little prizes or something for the top 3 out of 6 groups or something, and it's always a Post-it note, pens. It's just something very simple. I always wrap it because it makes it that much more special for them. And I'll do that maybe the first or 2 times we meet in groups. After that, they get sometimes. Some groups, they might get too competitive, too greedy, and all they care about is this. So I don't do this after the first. But in the beginning, it just makes it so much more exciting, and it bonds people. On my next to last test that I give every semester, I always have an extra credit class, extra credit question, and I usually have about 35 students in my class, and I always ask them to name 21 names of other students in the class, and that's always a bonus worth 4 or 5 points. And because I do this, because the first thing when they get in groups is I always have them tell each other their first name too. And I would say 98% of my students can always name 21 or 25 students' names, their first names, which, you know, I mean, I remember when I went to college, I had no idea who was sitting in my room. But I just think because they work in groups, and because I try to have them work in all different groups so they get to know, they know each other's names. And that's one feedback that I get a lot of times is through these games and through the activities and getting to know students, it's like a network for them. And then they'll all come to me and they go, oh, Mrs. Gensler, next semester we all were in the same class. I recognize half the people from the class, so it gave them a sense of comfort. But I just find a lot of just different ways to do all kinds of creative games. I mean, I have specific ones for business classes. I don't really want to, you know, bore everybody with, but there's tons of them.
There was another interesting thing that I found in terms of, like, for ethics, that they used an example of playing a game using ethics. And instead of how, you would have a debate regarding ethics, that they made it more of a game. So that they would have students divided into pairs, and the students would get, the pros and cons. And they would have to get up there to debate, but then the rest of the class would vote for who presented it the best, not whether, it was the right or wrong answer in terms of the discussion, but who presented the arguments the best, and then those students would get points. So again, it's that competitive nature. The more they get points, the more the literature supported, the more they could see immediate feedbacks in terms of rewards and points, the more engaged they were as well. So, did you use any games, Barb?
Basically, I use the puzzles, and then I have students introduce themselves to each other, but I make them start with student number one, what his or her name is. So the last student going has got to remember everybody's name and at least something about each person. Basically,
Did you share that? Did you share that at the adjunct?
yes, I did.
It's on this.
Yeah. And it takes a while to do, but I think, it basically breaks the ice for a lot of students because, like you said, you don't know who's been sitting next to you for 15 weeks, when you're at a large university. And at least this way, you get to know each other. And even though you say, I don't know your name, but I know you're an accounting major or something like that. And then, they have a bond and they start exchanging phone numbers. Well, if I'm absent, this is what we did, and, But I like that beach ball thing, though. Yeah. I'm just afraid I won't get it back. They'll take it out in the hall and they'll be gone.
They're nice and cheap to buy these. You can buy 5 for like $5 or something. But yeah, and you do, and some of the smaller ones actually have more lines so that you can fit things. But it's kind of neat to have concepts and stuff, and they, and they just pass it to one another. So it's interesting.
How do you do your crossword puzzles? Do you follow anything
There's
online?
one of these have them.
I do that. Yeah, I use the yeah.
Yeah, the reason I asked is there's one attached, like I said, to this handout. It's called Hot Potato.
There's another one too, and I didn't put it on here, I just thought of it, that I've used, is puzzlemaker.com.
Puzzlemaker is the one that I use.
Yeah, puzzlemaker.com. It makes it for you.
Puzzlemaker.com.
You just put in the words and the definition. It also does word searches. And I've used, especially with my oncology, which is cancer-related stuff, there's a lot of new terms that they've not heard throughout the program, and so I've used that as a good review tool for them to try to remember, the terminology. So.
They're kind of similar to what she does with that beach ball. Depending on what you're doing that day, whether it's finding the meanings, word meanings, or you give, each student gets, for example, a word, and then the other half of the class probably has the meaning. And you have to go around and find the person who has the meaning for your word and vice versa. Or if you're doing like, parts of speech, you find the person who has your part of speech for your particular word or in the sentence or something like that. Yeah.
So when they come into class, you pass those out.
Right. Or depending on what we're doing that day, at some point in the class, kind of like a review or a quiz or something.
Kevin has ideas. You're very creative in that.
I'll share something I did today if you guys want to see
I know
it.
that there's something in his bag here.
Something in my bag of tricks.
Yeah.
Yeah, let me see where I put it. I didn't want to, my Velcro thing is so
alive.
loud. I didn't want to open it while you guys were talking. Let me see. This is, what do I do with it now? This is something I do in my basic reading course. And where did I put the extras? I do a simple connect the dots game, which may seem really very simple, and it is until I introduce something a little bit more difficult, which is that I use it as a way to teach about the environment in which they're reading. And why can't I find any of these things here? I'll just tell you, and while I'm looking, I can probably thought I had
You
extra
wanna
ones.
look and I can,
Yeah, do you want, if you want to go ahead with something else, then I can look, and then I can, it'd be better if I could show you the actual thing. I just did this at the class I came from, and now I don't know where the extra copies are, but, yeah, if you want to go ahead, I can find it.
The handout on the yellow sheet, when some of you were there when we did the adjunct meeting and reception, and we had the adjuncts sit at, we assigned them to tables, and then we had members of the Center for Teaching Committee facilitate an idea exchange. Dawn is on Center for Teaching. We're on tape, so I want to make sure that they know that Dawn's on Center for Teaching, and Barb's on Center for Teaching, Kevin's on Center for Teaching, and Laurie on Center for Teaching.
Center for Teaching.
It's quite an awesome group, you should join.
No, and Banji is on Center for Teaching, and Snay is on Center for Teaching. Geez, I didn't realize we have almost the whole committee here. So Bonnie and, what's your name? Rosemary. And Rosemary, you should join the Center for Teaching. Anyway, so we asked the adjuncts to put some ideas on an index card, and I just typed up some of the better ideas, or the ones that weren't redundant. And there were a lot of good ideas on how to start a semester off, and then the second sheet is things to do during the semester. But there were a couple that stood out, like have students write letters of advice to the students of the following class. You know, I thought that was a good idea.
I did that, Nancy, last semester for the first time, and I will tell you that the students, I was afraid what they might write. Yeah. And I just said it needs to be positive, and it, you know, have grammatically correct and everything. And they really took, it was wonderful what they wrote. And I mean, I didn't use everybody's because, again, a lot of it was repetition, but I picked like 6 or 7, and I handed it out the first day of this semester. My students just kept saying, what is this? I go, this is a letter to you from the former students talking about the class and stuff. And that's really, they were more interested in that than the syllabus. They were all reading everything, because I said, write a letter on what you need to do to help you succeed in the class. And that was, you know, and they took it very seriously. So it really is a great thing to do.
Was this your idea?
No, but I've read it many places about doing that.
Then there's another one, it was called the ouch policy. If anyone says something that is inadvertently offensive, the offender can say ouch and must take back what they said offensively and offer another opinion. So there's just some good ideas. Let's see, there was another one for beginning a semester, like have study buddies, get a study buddy right at the beginning of the semester. So some icebreakers. So you can read those. And I have an activity, but I'll wait till Kevin and everyone's shared. Yeah, and I went over that. This one was, again, using game simulations and problem-based learning, and this comes from the I Teach course. So this is some online stuff. And then there's a whole bunch of handouts over there from Dawn.
A good icebreaker game that I often use is, I call it Who's In? And I did this a couple of semesters ago.
I took that idea and I used this too.
Yeah, we did
fun.
this probably 2 falls ago, and Nancy Cadigan and Katie Schachter and I did an active learning workshop thing. And it's what you do is you just get all, it's a good first week activity, get them standing up, get them moving around a little bit, and either if you have an aisle in the center of your classroom, you can use that, or just use the front of the classroom. Everyone stands up and you just ask a series of questions, and if that represents them in some way, they come forward, and you include yourself in it too. So you might have 5 or 6 students who all have cats, for instance. Something, it doesn't have to be a hard question. How many of you have lived in another country? And you see all the students who come up, and you say, does that mean Puerto Rico? Yes, it means Puerto Rico. So go ahead. And then they can see all the stuff that they have in common with people that they may not automatically know they have something in common with. So our students like to gravitate towards people they have something in common with, and usually language, cultural background, race, gender, those sorts of things are pretty overt things. But if you do this game, you get them thinking about, oh, well, I like to cook and this person likes to cook, or I'm from a foreign country, this person's from a foreign country, or whatever the case may be. And you get them to choose questions, and just what do they want to know about their classmates, and just physically and visually, it gets them thinking about who's sitting next to them, or who's going to be sitting next to them for 15 weeks. So
but they
it's a
come
fun
in
one.
for each, then they go
Yep.
back.
Oh yeah,
and
you
then
make them
the
get
next
up,
question you
get
ask,
up, go back, get up, go back, go back.
I do it in
So-
a circle. I have them make a big circle around the room, and so if the question pertains to them, they step into the circle.
Yep.
And it's really fun. Like the second day of class.
Yeah,
Or
depending on your
maybe,
classroom.
no, actually, I did it the first day of class, one of the first things we did. Like, how many of you are management majors, or marketing majors, and how many of you are graduating this semester? How many of you, this is your first time? And how many of you are transferring or have a degree? And then the people that come into the circle will even ask them to explain a little bit about, about their weird hobby or what degrees they have, or how many of you have more than 5 children in your family? Things like that. Who has dogs, who has cats?
Yeah, it's great. It's really nice.
It's really, I've been doing it.
And it's better than just having them raise their hand.
Yeah.
Because then they don't really look around and see. But when you see everyone kind of come up and look around, and they go through and say, oh, what do you like to cook? What do you like to cook with? Pasta. Okay. I like to heat a can of soup. All right. They don't really cooking. But, so it's just funny. And, they start to get, gets them a little more comfortable, especially with speaking in front of the group or whatever. And they have to go up in front of the class maybe, but usually they're not the only one. I don't choose things that are so specific that only one student would be up there. It's always 3 or 4, so that's kind of cool. Do you want me to talk about this one? This is. I don't have enough copies to go around, but what I can do is maybe project it on the screen. You can see what I do. This is, again, it sort of plays off. I try to play off like Lori does, off of productive competition. I don't necessarily think that competition is always a good teaching tool, but especially when it gets too competitive. But it can be a motivator, and they want to be first to finish and everything else. So I just did this. I did this in my English 003 class, but you can do it any class that they're doing reading, and you want them to think about their reading environment. You can do this. And I don't tell them what the purpose of this is. I just say, I write some rules on the board. We're going to play connect the dots. You got to connect them in order. There's 40 dots, 1 through 40. You just got to connect them up, right? And I said the rules are no peeking at other people's papers. Don't start until I tell you to. And they don't see this on the screen. They get these things handed out. They're upside down. So they can see that there are dots there. They can't see the numbers through them. I say, what you do is you're going to go as fast as you can, connecting them all. When you get to 40, first one to 40 wins. And everyone else has to stop, and we'll see how far you got, right? What they don't know, however, as I pass them all out, they have a pen, is that when I say go, I start doing all sorts of things in the classroom to sort of mess with them, okay? So for instance, oh, you guys want the lights on? Get the lights off, like that or like this? Is that better? Or is this better? And I'll be walking around the classroom. Oh, Nancy, what are you working on there? Oh, how far are you now? How far are you? Oh, is this your bag here? And I'll move your bag across the room over here or something. And I'll go over here and say, oh, what are you doing here? And then I might take your cell phone and put it on top of your thing like that. Right? And then they're like, Mister, stop. And then they'll try to all concentrate on anything else. And then often I'll have a video projected. There's this funny cats video on YouTube or something, And these cats are coming out of couches and they're jumping on the fan. And this one falls off the edge. This one's fighting with a baby. It's like any random stuff you can find. And of course, it's got sounds to it too. So it's dark. The lights are on. Lights are off. I'm walking around. I'm talking to this person, talking to that person. The cats are up here. I'm like, hey, look at that. The cat's flying from the ceiling fan. And of course they're like, shh, trying to concentrate. And eventually, one person will get to number 40, and then I'll say, stop. Okay, and then they're like, but I'm not done, no, whatever. So it really riles them up a little bit. I say, all right, look, what's the point of this? Why did I just have you do this for the last 10 minutes? Sometimes it takes 10 minutes to do it. And you think, oh, it's only 40 little dots on here. It's not that hard to do. But it'll take them long to do it. And the point is, of course, you've got to think about your environment when you're reading, when you're writing, doing all these things. So I'd say, imagine if I had given you 50 pages to read, or 10 pages to read even, or whatever, and you were in a place where there was music going on. I said, what are the distractions that you have in your everyday life? Kids, other homework, loud family members, radio, video games, internet, cell phone, TV. They just make a huge list on the board after that. And I say, see how hard it was just to connect the dots. What does that mean for your reading and your homework environment? And then they're like, oh, wow, geez. So then we start to think, what are the things that we should be thinking of when we do our homework or we do our reading? We should be thinking about when we do it, where we do it, who's around, what's around. You want it to be comfortable but not too comfortable. I always tell them, don't lay down in bed and try to do your reading that you don't really, maybe aren't that into, because you're going to be out in 10 minutes and that's it. So this is a little game. And generally, the fun thing is I inevitably see comments about this on my evaluations at the end of the semester. Oh, the Connect the Dots game or the Jeopardy game. The games always seem to show up as, you know, something they remember. So this one I just did today, so it's fresh in my mind, but definitely recommend it. I have a few extras if you guys, if anybody wants them. I don't have enough for everybody, but they're fun to do. And I will say the students who tend to do the best on these are the young mothers who have little kids. Because they know how to block things out, they know how to multitask, exactly. So the student who got to 40 this time, she has I think she has like a 2-year-old and a 9-month-old. And she was the first one to 40. It was really great.
All in one line, right?
If anybody else wants copies too, by the way, just email me or something. I have the
You
electronic
should
version.
really confuse them, like put 3 22s in here.
Ah.
You know, I mean.
Well, one student today was like, "Oh, is it gonna make a picture of something?" And I was like, "Nope, nope."
So it doesn't
not
make,
in-
so it doesn't make anything?
Nope, it doesn't make
Oh, it doesn't
anything.
make anything?
Nope. But some of them were distracted by the fact that they thought it was gonna make something.
Oh.
And that was, you know, because they're so used to connect the dots and there's a horse there or something. But nope, no horse.
Nothing horse.
There's nothing there. It's just a bunch of dots. So
Well,
it's fun.
gosh, there's like, there's no prize at the end.
Well, I gave the person who fin, I gave her like an extra point or something, you know, just to have that little incentive. And then the other students were bargaining for her to get more points, and they wanted to get points because they were second, and I was just like, that's when you have to kind of keep a lid on the competition so it doesn't get too out of control. But it's fun.
We're almost out of time. Does anyone else have any ideas that they brought to share? The only thing, I have an activity, it shouldn't take very long, and some of you might have seen this before. Does everyone have? Actually, it's better if you don't even use this, if you want to make copies of it. Any kind of creative thing I do with my class, I do a lot on creativity because in the workplace, research has indicated that managers and business owners want students, particularly business students, who are more creative, obviously, to come up with better ideas on how to conduct business and products, etc. There's one for you and then maybe one if you want to make a copy, but you can use this for any activity. But what I'd like you to do is on your paper, and if you've done this before, don't tell anybody. You're going to place 9 dots like this. Have any of you seen this before?
Yeah.
A couple of you have. So you put 9 dots in this configuration. And what you're going to do is you're going to take your pen and you're going to go through each dot only once and without your pen leaving the paper. So you're going to go through each dot only once, connecting the dots without your pen or pencil leaving the paper.
Yeah, doesn't matter how big the.
Nope. So just take a few minutes and see if you can, it.
Through each dot only once.
I've got another one to show you too.
I've seen this one, but I know I can't do it.
Yeah, that's correct. There are no right or wrong answers.
Okay.
But there is an idea that this exercise is trying to illustrate. And because of time, let me just show you one idea.
Wow, okay.
Okay, so then we talk about how many of you stayed within the box. How many of you, when you connected the dots, stayed within the box? And then we talk about this represents risk, and this represents their comfort zone. So we talk about being more creative and thinking out of the box. And I have a bunch of other activities that I do for thinking outside of the box. And then we talk about, then that leads into a discussion on paradigm shifts and changes. So you could use, you could use this for a couple of other things. One more quick thing I'll do, and you might have seen this one too. This was in one of my PhD classes, and not one of us got it, as I always tell my students. Okay, with one line, make that a 6.
The number
With
6?
one line, make that a 6. Don't feel bad, like I said, none of us got it.
Oh.
If you get it, call me over and I'll.
Oh, I get it.
6.
Wait.
Shh. Yep. And then the student, if a student gets it, I'll have him or her come up and, did I get it? Yes, you did. You all are going to.
That is so funny.
Look at that.
Ah,
Oh,
okay.
man.
You weren't
That's
thinking
all like,
outside
oh,
of
we
the
were-
box.
oh.
That was a simple geometry lesson.
Yeah,
So,
okay. We just have to write S, you know, wow, that's, oh. I have to-
I think of that as a curve, not a line.
okay, there's one more,
Right.
one more quick one?
There you go, technicality.
Okay, this is a little bit of math, a little bit of geography. It's about 4th or 5th grade math and geography, so you should be okay. You have to listen. This is a listening one. So if you've done it, do it again. All right, what I want you to do is pick a number between 1 and 10 and write it down. I don't have my instructions in front of me, so I hope I can remember. A number between 1 and 10, and multiply that number by 9. Multiply that number by 9.
Boy, I shouldn't pick that number.
I know, I'm having a hard time.
Trying to think.
Okay, now you've got a 2-digit number.
Mhm.
Add those two numbers together.
Wow.
Still-
Telling us,
Still,
Add those two numbers together, and now you have another number.
yeah,
This is our age.
all same numbers.
And from that number subtract 5.
Yeah,
And now
I'm
you've
still
got
stuck
one
on
number.
Mhm.
So this is listening math. And now what you're going to do is you're going to, if your number is a 1, you're going to relate it to a letter in the alphabet. So if you have a 1, it's A, 2, it's B, 3, it's C, etc. So now you're going to have a letter. No one's ever seen this before? I should keep these secret because then students are going to start seeing these. So now you have a letter.
Mhm.
Okay, this is where it gets tricky for them. Write down the name of a country that begins with this letter. Write down the name of a country that begins with this letter. And of course, they're thinking, oh my, Denver.
Yeah.
Dallas I've had. Okay, so now take the second letter of your country and write down the name of an animal that begins with that letter.
Second one, is it?
Second letter of the country, and write down the name of an animal that begins with that letter. And the last thing, write down the color of that animal. Write down the color of that animal. Ready? How many of you have a gray elephant from Denmark?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, if you came up with a gray elephant from Denmark, you're thinking inside of the box, because that's what people usually come up with. Do any of you have another country that begins with D?
Dubai.
Dubai, and there's a couple of others
It's the U animal.
that they come up with.
Urchin. Unicorn. Well, it's not-
Right, so, yeah.
So.
So you can come up with, some of them come up with different countries, and then you can go that way. Or some of you had Denmark, but you thought outside of the box and thought of another animal other than an elephant, like a eagle, or an EU, or eel. So, and you were thinking outside of the box. So all these activities
Boy,
I
I'm so
have to.
This is very nice.
Do that, yeah.
I used to do
Myself
that.
as being creative, but I guess I'm not.
Anyone else have any other things you want to say or share? We're right at the quitting time, and some of us have a 2:30 meeting like me, so thank you so much for coming and sharing your ideas, and don't forget to take your handouts. And hopefully we'll see you at our next Center for Teaching workshop.
If anybody wants tickets,